one. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Black Junior Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Ro Thompson. I want to thank you also so much for tuning in to our podcast tonight. We got a special guest that's going to be joining us in just a minute. He's actually here, but we got a couple of announcements that we want to make before we actually get into the podcast. Do want to announce that this past week we had several of our junior players. They participated in the PGA Junior Championship, which is probably one of the biggest junior golf tournaments in the country. We had Ahmad Raul that participated this weekend. He's joined us on the podcast tonight. We had Matthew Vital, who participated as well. And then, of course, we had Roman Solomon and Ian Davis. Those are some of the juniors that I'm aware of that participated in the boys junior PGA championship this past week. And if I miss anybody, Phil, just let me know. Okay, you can jump right in and let me know if I missed anybody. Then we had the U.S. Girls Junior Championship over in Maryland, and we had a couple of our junior players that participated in that tournament. We had our very own Kendall Jackson from Texas that participated in that. We had Amari Avery that participated in the championship, and she actually made the cut and advanced to the match play that took place that started today. The round of 64 actually started today. And then we had Bailey Davis, who actually advanced, and she made it to match play. And if I'm not mistaken, Bailey won in a playoff today. She chipped in off the green, and now she advances. She gets to advance to the round of 32. So we're excited about our junior girls. They're doing very well right now. And then we got U.S. Worlds coming up. Now that list is super long, so I won't be able to name all the names that are going to the U.S. Kids World Championship. But man, we're excited about what's happening in the world of junior golf. We got a lot of great players. We got a lot of great things happening across the country. And so we're definitely excited about that. I know Ty is headed to Worlds. We got his dad on, Sean. And then we've got, of course, Cameron Guyton. Little Cam is advancing. And I'll tell you what, let me do this real quick because I don't want to miss anybody, because this is a really, really, really good time. And so we've got Isabella Miller, Kendall Jones, Chloe Butts, Kayla Jackson, Layla Alexis Pouncey. We got Kalani Gathers, Vivian Lott, Aaliyah Shields, Ariel Collins, Victor Monsood, Asbury Foster, Chris Tank, Herschel Butts, Gavin Dornavel, Axel Monsood, Robert Melendez, Arnold Pouncey the fourth, Todd Treadwell, Ryan Tank, and Aiden Denani. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but we have a lot of juniors that are going to Worlds, and so we're very excited about that. And so and also, last but not least, you all, the Cameron Champ Foundation has announced the Mac Champ Invitational for 2022. I can't remember the exact dates, but I know it's in March. Okay, anybody got those dates for the upcoming Mac Champ Invitational? Anybody got those dates? Sean, you got those dates? Okay, if anybody gets the dates, just let me know and we can announce it on the podcast. Okay, so without any further delay, we are going to bring up our guest speaker tonight. Our guest speaker, you all, comes to us from the big country of Canada. Okay, that's right. So Coach Gad, you all, just to tell you a little bit about Coach Gad. Coach Gad, you all, is a certified mental skills coach, author, speaker, and founder of Mental Toughness Academy. He's been interviewed by numerous newspapers, radio shows, and podcasts. He's a former professional athlete who represented his country internationally. And he's a university head coach and a father of two. He's a high performance, athlete. His unique perspective allowed him to create a mentally tough athlete coaching program. And so he's got various clients that include all levels, starters, your intermediate athletes, your high level, world champion, Olympic players. And he has helped so many break through that not only will help them in athletics, but will actually help them in everyday life. So without any further delay, I want to bring up my guest tonight, Coach Gad Espinosa. Hey, Coach, how you doing?
I'm well, Ro. How are you? Thank you for that intro. It was very nice.
Thank you, man. You're welcome. Hey, thank you for agreeing to doing the podcast. As I told you before, we've had some guest speakers on. We've had coaches. We've had some of our elite juniors come on the podcast. We've had golf fitness coaches come on, but we've never had a mental skills coach. And I think that's probably one of the most important aspects of golf, because golf is mental. It's a little physical, but it's mostly mental. But, so before we get started, Gad, talk to us a little bit about your journey in the game of golf.
Yeah, I mean, sort of my journey into what I do now is sort of, as you mentioned, I used to be a former professional athlete. Specifically, I was a professional soccer player.
Nice.
I played professionally for 10 years. I represented Canada at a FIFA Youth World Cup. And overall, I enjoyed a somewhat successful career, most people would say. But one of the things I remember a lot about my career is struggling a lot of times with just whether it be my own expectations, recovering from injury, and maybe not living up to what I hoped, I dreamed I wanted to do, having a bad tournament, having a bad game. And I remember not enjoying my journey a lot. I remember really struggling. So, I like most athletes have my ups and downs, but I remember a couple of times really going through states of anxiety and depression and all that. And when I finished my career, and my career was cut short because of injury, concussion related, I took a step back and I wasn't feeling healthy. And I thought, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And just to make a long story short, I decided to get into coaching. But the one thing that I really said to myself is I wanted to not only coach athletes how to be better players, I wanted them to be able to understand the emotional part of themselves and how the psychological part makes a big difference in terms of their performance. Because basically what I did is I went on a hunt, an investigation in terms of how to get my brain healthy because I had concussion issues. And as I was investigating my brain, I started reading about psychology and sports psychology and how important that was to an athlete's performance. And the more I read, the more I was thinking, well, why in the world, if it's so important, and obviously it is, right? No one disagrees with that. Why wasn't I ever taught about this? Why wasn't this ever part of my player development, whether it be my club, my organization, mom and dad maybe somehow introduced this to me, and it never was. So this is a huge gap in the coaching industry. It's a huge gap in the player development practice model that all players do. And that's why I decided to get into it. And to make a long story short, again, I went into, got my certification with my background in as a player, as a coach, two kids that were competitive athletes. My daughter was a competitive swimmer. My son was a competitive hockey player. I bring this unique perspective from all different angles that allow me to put together, like you say, the Mental Toughness Athlete Program.
And that's good. That's good. We all know as parents, and we have a couple of players on here. We know golf is mental, and if you don't have your mindset right, it can be tough. It can be a journey that's rough. So talk a little bit about Coach Gad. Talk a little bit about why it's important to be mentally tough in the game of golf.
Yeah, getting right to the point, a young athlete, a young golfer could prepare technical wise, so their swing and all the mechanics around their swing. They could prepare themselves to be strong, be flexible, be agile, have that nice sort of twist, what they need in their core, torso, and all that. They could have everything ready, but if they're not thinking the right thoughts as they go up to the tee, right, as they bend down to put the ball where it should be and get ready to swing, if they're not thinking the right things, everything else could easily fall apart. So that's worst case scenario. But even a good case scenario, even a young golfer could be playing well. But what a lot of young athletes don't know, golfers, you name the sport, is that sometimes they might have another level that they can even reach that they don't even know about if they have the right mindset in. So the mindset, the mental toughness, the psychology, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing. It really allows you to get to that next level and to fulfill your potential. That's sort of what it does. That is a big difference maker.
So when you talk about this right mindset, okay, I know this is the $1 million question.
Yeah.
but how do we get our juniors to reach that right mindset? Is it exercises? Is it the thought process? I mean, give us some background on that.
Yeah, it's all of the above and more. I mean, how does a young golfer perfect his or her swing? Hours and hours of practice.
True.
Watching somebody on TV that they want to emulate, maybe that they think has a great swing that they want to be similar to. And it's the same with the mind. They have to be able to practice it, but more importantly, they have to know what to practice. And that's the big gap, right? Because if you tell a young golfer, we need to improve the length of your drive. They have an idea of what they need to do. They got to get stronger, more agile, maybe some torque, some swing, and then whatever else you need to do from a technical standpoint. But if we say to a young golfer, you need to have a more positive mental state. You need to forget about that last tournament, the last hole. You need to be more confident in yourself. Well, all nice things, but the question is how? What do they do? So it is a process of understanding how to focus better, how to be more confident, how to be more resilient. And back to the $1 million question, well, how do you do that?
Right.
It's a lot of things. I mean, one of the things that I like to point out is I have, and we'll give access to your listeners as well, I have a quick little book that I call the 4 key mindset changes that your athlete needs to make ASAP to be more focused, to be more confident, more resilient. So that's a good place to start. And key number 1 is understanding that failure is not only okay, but at the young age, failure should be expected. And wait for this, failure should actually be embraced, be hugged, right? And for athletes, that is hard, especially for a young athlete. Now, if you told me this when I was young and as an athlete, I would say, no, thank you. I don't want to fail. I'm used to winning. I'm used to, right?
Right.
But the truth is that failure is an amazing teacher. And we've heard it before. We know it, but how do we make it practical? But that is understanding that and trying to believe in that is sort of step 1, to be honest with you.
Wow. That's good. And I had another question on the tip of my tongue, but when you talk about step 1, golf is one of those sports where you're gonna fail a lot. I mean, you're gonna fail a lot. You're gonna make bad shots. You're gonna, your execution is gonna be poor sometimes. And so when you talk about step 1, what are some other tips that you can give us on how we can get the kids to manage step number 1?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we could have a whole podcast just on step number 1, right? So, but just to give you some brief points here. So the first thing is for them to understand that, and I'll sort of take the analogy somewhere else.
And Coach Gad, I did make you co-host, so you can share any type of PowerPoint you want to share with us too, okay?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
When I'm working with an athlete one-on-one, one of the first things I tell them or I ask them, I go, when do you learn more after a test or an exam? When do you learn the most? And most athletes tell me, when I'm studying, coach, when I'm studying, I'm
Right.
learning all this information. And that's when I learn the most.
Hmm.
And I go, well, you're learning, yeah, but you actually learn the most when you get your exam back, when you get your test back, and you see all the mistakes that you made. Why? Because now you know all the things that you don't know, or you can know better, all the stuff that your teacher highlighted for you. And the next time you write that test, the next time you write that exam, you're going to focus on those things that you made a mistake last time.
Right.
In athletics, in golf, it's the same thing. We learn more when we miss that putt,
Hmm.
when we miss that shot, when we have a lead and then we let it slip, right? So we have to go back, take a step back and think about, okay, what was happening? What was happening within my swing? What technical errors did I have that I need to fix? What was I thinking about? Was I nervous about that shot? Was I thinking too much ahead? Was I thinking if I miss that shot, they're gonna be getting closer and closer to me. So it's about understanding that mistake, taking a step back and really evaluating your technical part, your mindset, and if anything else was around it. Maybe was it a physical mistake that you did? So taking that step back and really seeing what was going on when that happened. So that's one thing that athletes can do in terms of understanding that failure is going to help them become better athletes.
And it's funny you mention that because we when we're doing practice rounds or when we're playing golf, the thing you just said is we learn from that first mistake, and we call the second golfer Bubba Watson. And Bubba Watson is a Masters champion. He's a great player because when you make that second strike, when you make that second hit, it's always the right hit. It's always the right putt. So, like you just said, you learn from your failures, but we just gotta of course learn how to you know do it right the first time, but make sure we have the right mindset going into that first strike. So we talked a little bit about step number one, Coach Gad. Talk to us a little bit about step number two.
Yeah. So step number two, or key number two, in terms of mindset shifts that young golfers, young athletes need to make, is you're looking into understanding that you have to focus only on things that you can control.
Okay.
And that is easier said than done, believe me. But like with anything, with practice, you get better and better at it. So, very quickly, right? In a game of golf, what are some of the things that you cannot control? You can't control who you're competing against.
Mm-hmm.
You can't control the weather, right? You can't control maybe how the course is, right? Is it
The
kept
shape, the
nicely or
shape,
not, and all that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You can't control that. So by you focusing on and worrying about those things, you're pretty much wasting your time, your energy, and you're using all that energy for negative things that's going to quickly get into mindset shifts and negative thought process. So what can you control? And the truth is there's only three things you can control in any athletic situation. Number one is you can control your preparation,
right.
your physical preparation, right? So that's everything to do with you, your technical stuff, your physical stuff. If you have a tournament tomorrow, you go to bed earlier, you can control when you go to bed, you control what you're eating and everything else, right? You can control that for sure.
Right.
The second thing you can control is your effort level. Whether you're down by 5 or 10 strokes and you're having a bad round, or you're up by 10 with just the last hole left, and you know what? You're down the home stretch and you're pretty much scot free, you're going to win that tournament. Your effort level, it should always be the same. There's no compromise there, and it's under your control 100%, right? The last one, the most important one, the most difficult one is you actually can control your thoughts.
Mm.
And part of the mental toughness program is teaching athletes how to control their thoughts. And part of it is understanding that failure is okay, focusing on what you control, so many things that we could talk about. But once you learn how to control your thoughts, now every time a golfer goes to a tournament, they start to focus on their technique, their swing, how they can prepare, their breathing. They focus on their effort level, and now they focus on their thinking. Are my thoughts positive? Are they somewhere that I need to be? Am I somewhere else? If I am, you're probably wasting your time and you're wasting your energy.
Right. And you bring up a good point because when you think about your thought process when our young athletes are playing golf, I want you to spend a little bit of time on this, and then if you got some things you want to share, we can go into step 3 and step 4. But I want to ask you, what's the best way for a young athlete to control their temper on the on the golf course? Control the temperament, the mindset. If I make a bad shot, what's the best way for a young golfer to control their temper?
I mean, step number one, always in any situation that is anger, anxiety, stress, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
is breathing,
Okay.
right?
Right.
I'm not a breathing coach. I'm a mental strength, mental performance, mental skills coach.
Right.
But all the skills that I teach start off with understanding that you need to breathe. So whether you use a box breathing method, any method that you want to learn online, I teach my athletes a couple of different methods. Step number one is take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out. No matter where you're at, that's going to bring your heart rate down a little bit.
Hmm.
It's going to clear your mind up a little bit. It's not going to clear it all the way. But once you do that, then you start adding different mental game tools to what you need to do. And I mean, tools could be everything from reframing situations, using visualization, having an anchor tool, so some sort of physical cue to get them back on track. There is so many things that athletes can do and should do to be able to overcome a difficult situation. They're angry at themselves or something happened. Take a deep breath, visualize your next shot, reframe the situation, whatever they might be able to do first and foremost, whatever helps them at that point is what they should do.
Gotcha. So, which I think may bring us into step number 3. Um, when it comes to the mental skills, what's step number 3, Coach?
So step number 3 is something that when I tell people, and sometimes they might think, really, that's step number 3, but it's an important one. And step number 3, and again, key number 3, because I have the 4 keys,
4 keys.
is understanding your commitment level to what you want to accomplish. And let me explain by saying this. As athletes, we get into sports. Young golfers get into golf because they like golf. They have a natural ability. They're good at it. When they're good, we get praised. We like it. We feel good. We get into it. We want more of that, and then so forth, right? As we develop and things become more competitive, we really need to up the ante in terms of commitment level. And so one of the things that, and I'm going to see if I could share my screen with you here, is that most athletes, most coaches, and us as parents, I raise my hand because I'm a parent as well, is that we're great at helping our athletes. And let me know if you could see this here.
Yes, we can see it, Coach. Yep.
So this is the 4-corner athlete development model. So athletes, coaches, and parents, we're great at committing to the doing part of an athlete's development.
Wow.
A young golfer's development, right? Practicing the technical part. Everything that has to do with them becoming better golfers from a technical standpoint, right? We're great. Athletes are great, really, most of them, at getting themselves physically ready. They know they have to be physically ready to be the best they can be. Awesome. What a lot of people have the problem in, and it's more than any because there's a lack of understanding, is the thinking part.
Wow.
For any young athlete to develop to their full potential, they have to also develop their social end of things, which happens a lot with, in individual sports, it's a little bit more difficult because there's a social communication part with coaches and maybe other people, other athletes that they train with. But the biggest one is the psychological. And so when I say commitment is key number 3 or step number 3, is that you have to understand that you have to commit to all 4 areas of development if you're really serious about being the best young golfer you want to be. Because if you leave out this or this, you're leaving a lot of chips on the table, like I say.
Wow.
Because you could still be, and I'll bring it to my next screen here. You could still be so I'm just going to skip through this quickly. You could still be playing at a high level, right? Because you're doing all the technical stuff, the physical part, the social part, and you might have some psychological stuff in there that you talk about, parents talk about, coaches talk about, something's happening there, and you might be at a good level, right? However, you won't reach your peak performance or full potential unless you add some sort of real focused, committed effort into improving your psychological aspect of your development.
Wow.
And that's when it gets you to your full potential.
Okay.
So this could be awesome, but it could be untouchable, right? It could be good to excellent. It could be not very good to good. It could be really having a tough year to, okay, it's not bad, but I could be better. Every athlete, every golfer is in a different stage in this process. So that's number 3.
That's number 3. All right.
Yeah.
Give us key number.
Sorry. So just to wrap that up. So then basically what a young golfer needs to do is they need to find 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes in a week and find a way to develop their mindset. What I call brain training. That's what commitment is.
Okay.
Finding a little space within that week to be able to add this as part of their scheduled training. So they have the training that they go to when they go practice golf. Some probably have a schedule when they go with a personal trainer or maybe to the gym. Exactly. And now they have to schedule something for brain training. That's commitment number 3.
Okay. And before we go to key number 4, Coach Gad, what's one of the best ways to train psychologically? I mean, is it videos? Is it YouTube? I mean, what's the best way to train on that?
I would say the easiest one, so it doesn't become a burden to anybody, is very simply going online, using Google, punch in sports psychology for athletes, sports psychology for young athletes, and read 1 or 2 articles a day. That's the easiest, simplest way of doing it, for sure. Okay. You don't have to go out there and buy a book. You don't have to go there and do anything that, might make it where your young athlete's just not going to do it. How long is it going to take to read an article? 10, 15 minutes?
Right.
Maybe another 5 minutes just to understand the key points. And that's sort of what bare minimum a young golfer should be doing.
Great. All right. So give us key number 4.
All right. So let me stop the search here.
Okay.
Or stop the share, sorry. So key number 4 is sort of the cousin of key number 3. And same thing, I'm going to tell you this, if you're going to say, oh, well, that's nothing, not earth-shattering, but it's understanding how it works. So key number 4 is understanding not only the commitment, but putting in the hard work that you need to bring all this together.
Gotcha.
So now that you've committed, say, okay, Coach Gad, this kind of makes sense. I'll commit to 50 minutes a week of brain training. I'll read an article or 2 a week. Nice, great, good start. So now it's making sure not only that you do it, but you do it focused. You read that article, you really dissect it a bit. It's not going to take you more than 5 minutes to read the article. Dissect a couple of key things that you liked about it and see where and how that fits into where you are right now. And that little by little starts to embed certain thoughts, certain what we call positive thinking patterns, success thinking patterns.
Right.
And then that starts to be ingrained in a young athlete's brain. Now, having said that, there is a little secret in what we call the sports psychology or mental game world. Okay. And that is that, our brains is such a fascinating, it works in such a fascinating way that it doesn't know the difference whether a young golfer is out in a golf course practicing their swing or at home because it's raining and in their bedroom closing their eyes and imagining their swing.
Wow.
Our brain doesn't know the difference. The same neural connections happen. Like, this is nothing that I'm just saying because I like to say things like this. This is scientifically proven. You can go online and read an article and it'll tell you all the neuroscientists and all the research that they did. The same neural connections happen whether a young golfer is outside practicing their swing or at home imagining their swing.
Wow.
So as part of that commitment of 15, 20, 30 minutes, they could spend 5-10 minutes reading an article, 5-10 minutes understanding the article, dissecting it, and then another 5-10 minutes imagining the course that they're going to play if they know it.
Right.
Imagine maybe the course that they just finished playing and how they could have done things better. And that all encompasses them becoming more mentally stronger, mentally prepared. And when you're prepared better, the brain, the subconscious brain, again, I could go on and on, but just very quickly, the subconscious brain loves being prepared. When you prepare the subconscious brain by reading, by visualization, by all the stuff that I'm talking about, it starts to open up for you and it says, I like this. No, this feels good. We're preparing. And now you're going to go to the golf tournament technically prepared, physically prepared. You're connecting with friends and family. So socially, you're good. And now you're starting to be there mentally.
Psychologically, right.
Right, psychologically.
Yeah.
But if you don't do anything psychologically, you're going to go there physically prepared, technically prepared, socially still connecting with everybody and friends and chatting and all that stuff, but you're not going to be there mentally. So your brain is going to be somewhat in this sort of open, close, up and down, depending what happens. And it's really hard for anybody to play at their full potential when they're like that.
Wow. Coach Gad, you brought me to, I've been in business for about 20 plus years, and I found out about a program called The Secret.
The Secret.
I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, but
I have.
Yeah. So when you start talking about the mental, the mindset, the brain, imagining, thinking about it, and all of that just hit me like a ton of bricks. So I mean, you're really dead on it.
Yeah, so, and just so you know, but even within visualization, because a lot of people when I talk about visualization, are going to say, yeah, I like that, and yeah, I've heard about that, or that I agree with that. But the truth is, there's different levels of visualization. It's not just sitting down and thinking about, oh, I'm gonna hit this, I'm gonna kill this course. I know it well. I've been there before. There's different levels of visualization. It's adding senses, adding all the things that make it so real, so that your brain actually believes it's happening. And for some people that might seem like out of this world stuff, but again, it is proven. It's researched by neuroscientists, so it does work. There's just different levels of how to do it.
Man, I tell you, Coach Gad, this has been great. I think you've given us a lot to think about, to really implement into our juniors' schedule and repertoire. And so I guess my next question for you is, you shared with me earlier about a PDF that you wanted to share with the group.
Yeah. So the 4 keys that we just talked about right now. So the 4 key mindset changes that every athlete needs to make right away to become more focused, more confident, more resilient. You can have it as a free PDF. So anybody that's listening, whether now or in the future, what I'll do is I'll quickly just grab the link to it and I'll share it. So there's a couple ways that you can get it. One way is I'm just going to grab the link here. I'm going to put it in the chat and they could just hit that there and they could go right to so let me do that right now.
And I have a copy too, so I'll be able to get it to all the junior parents and the juniors too.
Awesome. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to punch in here my website, coachgad.com. Okay. So when they hit that, as soon as they go to the first page, the homepage, at the very top, it's going to be that offer for the free PDF. So yeah, you could go there, have that handy, keep it in the car so that when your child is on the way to a tournament, they could quickly read it, keep it top of mind. So that's how they can get a copy of that.
Right. And before we open it up for Q&A, Coach Gad, how can everybody get in touch with you? I know you put the website. I wasn't sure if you were on Facebook or Instagram. How can our junior parents and juniors get in touch with you?
Yeah. So one of the things I like to do, because I know every situation is different. So one of the things I like to do is provide what I call a discovery call. If you have something specific that your son or daughter is struggling with, or maybe not struggling and want to get into that next level, I have a free, what I call a free 30-minute discovery call. So I'm just going to also punch in that link here as well. Okay. So you could book that with me. We'll discuss what's going on with your son or daughter and see, if something that we could talk about right away and give you some ideas and sort of go that way as well. So that's another way they could connect with me.
That's beautiful, Coach Gad. Thank you so much. So what we're going to do right